The XY Advisor podcast is intended for professional financial advisors. This content is created in partnership with our sponsor, Net Wealth Investments Limited, ABN 85090 569 109, AFSL 230975, and is limited to publicly available information. Before acting on any general advice, you should consider whether appropriate and obtain financial advice from a qualified financial advisor. XY Advisor does not hold an AFS license and does not provide any financial advice or services or endorse any general advice. If a PDS or IM exists, you should obtain a copy and review it thoroughly before making a decision.
AdviceTech. As if it wasn't enough to be across TMDs, Alpha, Beta, Rule of 72 and all the other nuances of financial advice. Now, advisors are expected to be across all the technology options too, and there's so many of them. But never fear, Peita D is here. Join me each week on a journey of discovery through the software and apps on offer for advisors and advice businesses. So let's dive in, fellow advice explorers.
This episode is brought to you by NetWealth, market-leading providers of technology, excellent customer support and expertise to help your wealth business thrive. Rated number 1 for overall satisfaction and value for money by Investment Trends and Chant West's Advised Product of the Year for the last 4 years, NetWealth is here to support you on your advice technology journey. See wealth differently and visit the website to learn how NetWealth can support your advice and wealth business.
Hello and welcome to the XY Advice Tech Podcast. I'm Peita Diamond-Titus, and joining me here today to deep dive into the Think Caddie app is, well, they've been an RSPCA adoptions volunteer, a marketing manager for Australia's largest online construction marketplace, actually understands what SEO means when the rest of us are just nodding and smiling. And I just found out she is a first-time podcast guest. So thank you so much for joining me on the show, Sasha Lincoln. Woo!
Thank you, Peita. That is a good introduction.
You are very welcome. Now, I'm very keen to pick your brain about Caddie, but first, I'd like to take a moment to sort of just ease us in and get to know you a bit better as a user of technology.
Yeah.
What is your most used emoji? Do you use emojis?
I do use emojis, yes. They're a great space filler when it comes to, texting or slacking. So what is my most used? Look, I think it depends on who I'm talking to, but a lot of the time it's the okay hand.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Nice.
Or, a smiley face. Pretty boring, pretty standard. But yeah, they'd probably be my two most used.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of the nerdy smiley face. That perfectly captures me, I feel. When there's nothing else I could say, I'm like, yep, still a nerd. It's all good. Yeah. Now, if you had to delete all of the apps off your smartphone and just keep 3, which ones do you think you'd keep?
Yeah, so this is tricky because I think, especially nowadays, everybody's so reliant on their phones. But I'd have to keep Slack and emails, I think. They definitely would be the two I use the most.
Mm-hmm.
And I really don't think I could get through Friday nights without Uber Eats. So I'm going to keep that one as well.
That's fantastic. That is the first time that's come up. And I've got to say, I'm surprised it's the first time it's come up.
You've got to, I could just do the old calling method, but I like tracking. So
me too.
Yeah.
And particularly when you can watch the disastrous path they choose. Right?
I know,
yeah. Really? How did you choose that way? I love it. Stalking
Exactly.
our food delivery people.
Yes.
I love it. All righty. So let's dive in to Caddie, shall we? So To give everybody a sense, and I should preface this all by saying that myself and my team are Caddie users. So just so everybody understands. But in terms of giving everybody a sense of where it sort of sits, in the overall advice tech space, what category does it fall under and who are you guys normally lined up against if somebody's looking at alternatives?
Yeah, so we are a CPD or a continual professional development platform for financial advisors, really any financial professionals that are required to do CPD, whether that's just for ongoing training or a legislative requirement such as, the phase year requirements.
Yep.
In terms of the market and who be an alternative to. The likes of Kaplan.
Yep.
So they're definitely the biggest player in the market, but we do differ in regards to the fact that we are a technology platform.
Okay.
We're not actually an educator. So that's one of the interesting things about Caddie is we don't create our own content, which we can, dive into a little bit more detail.
Interesting. And it is a bit of, it's a notable difference as a user that it's clearly a curation exercise for you guys.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So we aggregate CPD content from, over 200 publishers or SMEs, and we plug it all into our system and allow advisors to earn their CPD points for consuming that content as opposed, I should say, to logging in and, having to complete our written content.
Yep.
We recognize there are so many amazing publishers or creators in the market already.
Yeah.
So, why can't we allow advisors to get rewarded for that?
Fantastic. And potentially content they might be consuming already anyway. So I know there are, as an example, podcast episodes on there. So, people listening might not actually be getting credit for that in their CPD, whereas you guys have some that are already feeding through into the tool.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess that was one of the core, outcomes that we found when we were validating our product with the market was, people are doing CPD day in and out. They're just not getting rewarded for it. So we tried to come up with a solution that allows us to, capture that, whether it's something that they've, read or listened to or, watched that day, or potentially, a week ago, it's fresh in their mind. We're allowing them to still get rewarded for that by coming in and, answering some questions.
Perfect. And so then, so therefore the primary user initially I can see is any financial services professional needing CPD. So that's definitely financial advisors, but it could also be mortgage brokers.
Absolutely. Mortgage brokers, stock brokers. If you've got to do CPD as a part of an RG 146 requirement or, phase 0 requirement, you can do that through Caddie. We've got paraplanners who also, complete CPD, and they're wanting to do the same amount as the advisors that they're working alongside.
Right. Okay.
So they're able to get that, that same suite of content through Caddie.
Fantastic. Okay. And so now you mentioned off air before we started that in fact you got acquired. When did that happen? When did Caddie get acquired?
Yeah. So that was November 2019.
Okay.
So that was by a company called Comply FinTech Solutions.
Yeah.
And it's just a really great fit for, Caddie. Comply, they have a suite of, tech products ultimately that help, with in the space. So you've got things like Advisor Bid, which is automated distribution of corporate deals, for bidding and electronic bid acceptance. Their Corporate Highway empowers access to corporate deals and liquidity.
Yep.
And, Caddie, I guess, being the e-learning side of things or the CPD side of things, it just fits in beautifully with the suite because you've got advisors who are using their products day in and out, and you're able to, meet your CPD through that as well.
Perfect. And so I guess from the Caddie team's perspective, that's also given a bit of oomph behind you and maybe access to other industries or groups that you might not have yet sort of tapped into.
Absolutely. And in particular in the stockbroking space. And we do hear this a lot. The CPD content that is out there is very targeted towards financial advisors. And so being able to have a dedicated library for, brokers gives them access to really relevant CPD content, which, from feedback hadn't been the case previously.
Yeah, okay. That's fair. And so then aside from sort of full CPD, you mentioned paraplanners, I'm betting that, certain businesses could also use the tool to educate the rest, that maybe even support staff depending on their need. Yeah, to keep them across things.
Yeah, exactly. So, even product providers we've got on our platform. You've got distribution teams or people who are working closely with advisors. It's really about making sure that everyone's on the same page. And, by keeping up with the professional development that advisors are doing, it allows them to sort of keep their foot ahead, when they are working with these advisors. So that's great.
And I'm betting that it must have been an interesting journey for you all with you can build an app or a tool that serves, let's just say, advisors with CPD, but there's all sorts of other interested parties in that process, business owners and licensees and things like that. How do you manage that sort of sometimes challenging needs or demands of each role of somebody that could utilise or take advantage of Caddie?
Yeah, good question. Well, look, this was all a part of it. Before we even wrote any code or built any of the product, we spent, I would say, 6 to 12 months in the market, sitting down with advisors, compliance managers, licensees or license holders, to make sure that the product we did build was going to work for each user type. So it was really a matter of validating and, coming down to what the real needs and requirements were.
Yep.
Going away, building that. And we did, beta testing and getting people on the platform before we'd actually launched it. We made changes as we saw fit. And, we're continuously evolving the product as well, because at the end of the day, we've built it for the market and we want to be able to make sure that it's a really user-friendly, intuitive platform that helps advisors, compliance teams, AFSLs, everyone manage their compliance requirements around CPD.
Perfect. And so in terms of then who finds it easy to take up Caddie versus others, is there, is it mainly, self-licensed or small practice or big practice? Like, is there any sort of theme to who Caddie fits well with versus others who maybe either it's, you've struggled to get through the gargantuan process that can be, massive groups, or is there any theme to that?
Definitely. And I think that in most tech firms you'll come across, there's always that challenge of breaking into the larger businesses. And it's not necessarily the technology, it's typically more the change management process. And so because of that, the smaller groups, self-licensed or just smaller groups, smaller AFSLs, typically have adopted the system a lot easier and a lot quicker. The way that we have built the system out allows for us to easily onboard groups, as large as possible, without any major headaches. It's really more that internal change management that I think has been, drives a little bit of resistance. But I must say, over time, where the smaller groups were definitely those who we saw picking up the platform a lot quicker and earlier, over the years, it's certainly changing, and we are starting to see a lot of these larger groups come through, which is fantastic because, we're able to offer a really intuitive solution for their CPD.
Yeah, perfect. And look, it's it's always a challenge. Like you say, change management is the hardest part. It's never actually about the tech,
Exactly.
For any of us with anything. It's never about the tech. It's the change management is natural. But I do think that at the very least, having alternatives is just always a good thing. I think it creates competitive tension, and I think that's fantastic. But I do think that the market itself is evolving. It's moving away from massive groups that dominate 99% of the advisors.
Exactly.
That's shifting and changing, and therefore the tools that'll get taken up will shift and change. So it's only natural. Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah. And I think, following the Royal Commission and all of the legislative changes that came in, or we saw a lot of large groups, they don't no longer exist, and we have got a large number of more self-licensed advisors coming into the market. So you're 100% right. It is providing that other option. And the other thing is really just, technology needs to evolve to stay current, and that's what our goal is. Our goal is to adapt, and we've done so with the legislative changes that we all see come into play, especially when FASIA came in. And so we had to very quickly, hustle and change the platform to align with that from a compliance perspective, to ensure that anyone using the platform was very well aware of what their requirements were and how that could be tracked in our system. So you've got to be agile, you've got to be able to, pivot if needed. And because we are very tech focused, that gives us, the tools to be able to do so.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And so in terms of then the content, so we're curating instead of creating. How do you, how So where are you getting it from? You know, how do you get new channels? Of course, because I'm imagining there's sort of somebody you find, oh, that's really good content. You somehow onboard them and then you start, you know, getting consistent content from them. How do you go through that process?
Pretty much just that. And one of the other things that we do is we really rely on our clients as well. So we want to know who people are consuming. You know, can we then approach that particular content provider? It might be like a subject matter expert in a technical area. You know, by listening to what our clients' needs are, it allows us to then, you know, pivot the focus for content accordingly. So as I just mentioned earlier, you know, we inherited, I guess, or have grown a lot of the stockbroking clientele. And, you know, it was our mission to go make sure that our stockbroking library was filled with really relevant content for those particular users. So, you know, we then do the research required and we go build partnerships with content providers or subject matter experts in those particular areas.
Fantastic. So does that mean that if there's somebody out there listening and they're either a user or planning to become one and they've got something they particularly like as content, I'm going to come up with a random of examples. So Michael Kitzes from the US is a fantastic, thought leader in the industry over there. But just as an example, somebody you follow, you read every blog, you think it's fantastic, then at the very least, they should let you guys know and just say, hey, can you check it out?
Absolutely. Let us know because that's the whole point of, you know, curating, right? It's to be able to bring everything together and to make it easy for you to go in and then complete that all in one space. Okay.
So then I'm guessing then that you guys then have the appropriate accreditation or whatever is required to then assess and, you know, assign points for the various categories and all that sort of stuff. So you do that in-house?
Well, it's depending on the content. So, for example, if you've got some content that has, you know, been pre-accredited by one of the associations, and that's great. We can put the accreditation details in. You know, with the legislation, it's 70% needs to be approved by the licensee. So, you know, you can go through the library prior, whatever we've got in our library or our catalogue, I guess. You know, that's approved or not approved, but it goes through our content team and it's all goes through a QA process. We make sure that it aligns with the FASEA requirements that were set out prior to be handing over to the Treasury. So it's just ensuring that there are learning outcomes across the content and across the mandatory categories that are listed.
Right. And so to sort of complete that sort of process, then I've noticed doing my CPT, then at the end of, you know, you read your article or whatever the thing is you're consuming, you do your test questions, and then at the end it's got this little feedback loop that's the smiley faces, you know, frowny face, flatty face and smiley face. What do you guys do with that feedback?
So that's one thing we wanted to be able to do. Given the fact that we aren't writing the content, we want to make sure that we have got that feedback loop so we can internally manage the content that's being produced or like being listed on our system, I should say. It's very rare, but if we do get like a sad face or a sad smiley face or a not so smiley face, however you want to call it, it just gives us the ability to then reach out to the publisher, discuss with them why that is. And also when you do rate something negatively in Caddie, you provide a reason as to why. So it allows us to just close that feedback loop and ensure that the content quality is meeting the expectations of our clients.
Yeah, okay. So, and I'm imagining then, you know, one frowny face is one thing, but a consistent theme can then give you guys some great feedback on a potential source. Yeah,
absolutely. And also with the happy smiley face as well, it really helps indicate what our advisors are loving. So sometimes we'll get like a sad smiley face and someone might just be like, hey, I noticed a spelling error in this article. So we'll just run up, you know, chase it up with the publisher. It can be something as minimal as that. Or it can be like, hey, you know, this is a little out of date now because legislation changes occurred. So we then review that. We can either, you know, speak with the publisher to adjust the content or we can remove it from the system. But typically speaking, the content expires after 12 months in our system anyway. So we really want to drive relevant content to the market. And so and we're adding new content in every week. So it's really about staying as relevant as we can and presenting as much content as we can that's relevant to advisors. Anything that's older than 12 months typically won't be in the system.
Yeah, okay. So in terms of then integration, have you got to the point where you guys are integrating with anything else at this point?
Yeah, absolutely. So we are integrated completely with Comply, which is our parent company, which is really great because, if you're in that system, you can just click on the Caddie button and it takes you through without having to log in and log out and, all of that other stuff. But we've also built our platform with open API integration capabilities, which ultimately means, if you're dealing with your own CRM, you can send the Caddie completion data across to your CRM if that's how you typically want to track it. And then that way you're not having to log in and out of the systems to be able to report on how the advisors are tracking with their CPD.
Wow. Okay, so if a licensee is really on their game, uses a good CRM to sort of interact with and coordinate with advisors that they look after, then they could be getting that sort of, trigger into the system to go, somebody hasn't done this for a while, or that sort of stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. And we do have a number of our clients who do that. Okay. They integrate it with their existing CRM that they spend more time in, which is fine. More so for reporting and management purposes. I wouldn't say the advisors do so as much.
No.
But we also, to drive engagement with the platform, we send newsletters out, which I'm sure you will have received, where it's a bit of a roundup of CPD content that's been added so that you can jump in and you can just complete it and get some points.
Yeah. Which I have. Although, to be fair, I've actually now got into this habit, and my poor hairdresser laughed, actually, last time I was in there, where I do this block of it when I go and get my haircut. And he thinks it's hysterical. It is. He thinks it's hysterical because he feels far more educated now about finance stuff as he peers over my shoulder as I'm reading. So...
And that's the beauty of it. I mean, Caddie is a completely mobile responsive platform, so you can do CPD anywhere on the go. And that was one of the big things we learned when we were validating before we built the product. And pre-COVID time, I've got to put that disclaimer out there, when people commuted to work, didn't work remotely as much. But we wanted to be able to give advisors the ability to complete their CPD on the train into work, or on the bus, or, how they're commuting, or potentially in the car, they might listen to a podcast. So by creating a mobile first platform, it allows advisors to do it anywhere. So, perfect example when you're at the hairdressers.
Well, and I think CPD is one of those tasks that it is an impost. It is time. And we've all got to acknowledge that, except it's only horrific when it builds up.
Exactly.
If we don't let it build up, then it's manageable. And so bite-sized chunks, when you're waiting for something, or that's when I do these things, is when there's just nothing else really I can do in that time. It's like I've got it on my iPad. I click in, and I think, it's powerful to be able to search on time, the length it's going to take, or, all that sort of stuff that just, hey, I've only got 30 minutes. Is there something I could just knock off?
Exactly. So with our filtering functions in the content library, you can go in and you can choose, the type of content. So it could be an article or a podcast or a video, or the length of content as well. So, I've only got half an hour, so show me only content that's available for this amount of time. But the other thing with that is we're not going to show you content in CPD areas where you've already met your goals.
Right.
So let's just say if you've completed 9 hours of professionalism and ethics, but you've still got 5 hours in, client care and practice to complete, we're going to serve you or display the content on your screen to be more skewed toward the client care and practice, because that's a goal you need to hit.
Yeah.
So the algorithm that's, built in behind all the content, it's really about delivering relevant content that's going to help you meet your CPD goals, because there's nothing more annoying, and I'm sure a lot of people will agree, than sitting somewhere, consuming something for 2 hours only to find out you didn't actually need to do it. It's not going to make a difference.
I'm 2 hours older, but I haven't managed to knock off anything I needed to knock off.
Yeah. So we definitely wanted to make sure that we could strip out any of the confusion around that and just make it really obvious and really clear. This is what you've got to do. Here's content that will help you get there, and then off you go.
And so then if somebody's sort of gone to an event or something external and, they've got emailed the little certificate we all get once we've completed, then they can then upload that into the system?
Absolutely, yes. So, there are so many conferences and great events that are occurring that we might not capture in Caddie. So we've made it really easy with, you just click on the form, upload the details and attach the certificate of attendance or your activity evidence. And then, if you're a part of a business, you just submit that for approval, which goes directly to your manager, typically someone in compliance or, the AFSL holder, and they can review that and make sure it matches up. And they can approve that, which automatically will then just track towards your progress.
Yeah, and so then, all of that's in one place too. So it's all saved in the one place all together.
Exactly. And it's really easy for anyone to do as well. The form, it's not a really complicated form, which is great.
Yeah.
So you just fill it out. And I think this is actually a feature that solves a lot of headaches for compliance teams, because a lot of the time they're just getting emailed, time and time again with all of these different things that they need to upload for their advisors.
Yeah.
The advisors can do it really easily from within their own system.
Yeah.
And they can also then see whether it's been approved and tracked against their progress.
Yeah.
And it's just in their accounts. They really control that a lot more, which is great.
Yeah. And you mentioned though that there's sometimes events you've already got uploaded in there. How does that work?
Yeah, so we have an event suite, I guess, in Caddie, and it's really just a notice board of events that are happening in the industry, so people can register their interest. Now, some events might be free webinars, or you might have like a paid conference that you want to go to. We don't take a clip of anything. It's purely just a notice board.
Yep.
But what we've done is we've pre-filled that information into Caddie. So once that event date has passed, our system will actually send you a reminder to say, hey, you've indicated that you were interested in going into this event. Did you go? If so, don't forget to upload your CPD certificate. So it's just that extra little prompt that, helps advisors keep on top of it and helps compliance teams from having to follow up.
And the automagic, like we love automagic, something that's just going to nudge me is fantastic. Now, I'm not going to put you on the spot and, well, no, I am. And ask so XY have an all PD day. Now, actually, when we release this, it may just be after that. But so it's that type of thing where it's an event that you've decided to go to. You guys, if it's on your list, will have already, assessed the different points. And so then it's just a matter of confirming it afterwards with that certificate. Yeah.
And I have been meaning to add that one on, so I will get the team to do that. Yes. And that's the thing as well, which I think is quite frustrating for some advisors in the industry is if you register for an event, you don't necessarily know what the allocation of PD points will be. If we have access to that information beforehand, that's fantastic because we can load that up.
Yeah.
But if not, like if you're going to an association conference, there are so many seminars and sessions that they run. It's kind of impossible to figure out exactly, how many points you get before.
Yeah.
So regardless of whether we have that information prior to listing the event or it's something that you can add after, it's really just a couple of steps. You just put in the category and the number of points. But it's that pre-filled form. So, it'd be the XY PD day.
Yep.
That would all be pre-filled, and then they could just allocate the points that they received along with the certificate.
Great. Because it is one of those, it's such a little thing, but it's a pain point that I'm sure every advisor listening is like, I forget to do that too.
Yeah. And forms are painful. So if we can take some of the pain out of putting the form data in, then that's what we'll do.
Now, in terms of other sort of ninja level stuff, there was something that I, in fact, only in doing the research for this and like a current user, but didn't realize this, is that say a business that's on there or even a licensee can publish their own internal training through Caddie and use it as that e-learning platform just for their team members. How does that work?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's actually structured in a really similar way to how we list, external content or the other content, but you have access to your own business library. So whether you're running internal PD days or internal training, you can list that through Caddie, put in some Q&As, and then send that out to your advisors to complete as mandatory CPD training.
Yeah.
not only that is if you wanted to use it as more kind of an LMS style tool,
Yep.
you can do so too. So you can just put anything in there, like it might be policy documents, HR announcements, and you can push that out without CPD attached to it.
Yep.
And you can assign it as a task to your users. So you can say, hey, we've got a new policy document and I want everyone to go in and review and confirm that they've read and understood.
Yep.
You just load it in, assign the people who you want it to go to, and then you just hit send and off it goes.
Well, that's just amazing. So can you add your own questions at the end to test understanding?
Yes. So any business library content is owned and authored by the business. We don't actually step in and do any of that. So it's completely up to the business what they want to push out. And if they're doing professional development, as I mentioned, 70% needs to be approved by the licensee. So if they've come up with some internal training that they say, this really relates to ethics and here are the learning outcomes from it, then they can actually list that themselves. In the same sense, it might be some, general CPD or a PD day that they've run. They can load content in and then, send it out to their advisors.
And I mean, for, listeners out there, like I'm just cogitating this, if we're, onboarding maybe new advisors or even professional year advisors, then to even have things like, videos talking through your investment methodology or, these things that are sort of training, but training specific to advisors, even if it doesn't have the CPD attached, this could be a fabulous way to make it structured, deliverable, they can access it anywhere, but it ticks it off, keep the record. I love the way that this could bring a bit more structure to the other parts of the training we do with AdviceTech members.
Yeah, definitely. And even for new staff, it's just great to be able to, house all of your business documents, and you can use that as a bit of an onboarding tool. If you don't have something like a separate LMS, you can really use Caddie to deliver that to your staff.
Oh, it's a great idea. So in terms of then the development path going forward, is there anything specifically, I mean, you're constantly adding content, so that's a given. Is there anything specifically on the radar?
Yes.
That you can share? Yeah, that one. I didn't finish that sentence yet. That you can share with us?
Look, there's always things that we're trying to do, to improve the platform and to make it more intuitive. I did touch on that LMS capability just before, and we're really trying to make that work a lot better from a LMS kind of perspective.
Yep.
So at the moment, it's like you load up your content and you assign it as a task. What if you could load up entire modules as a part of the sequence? Then that would be quite cool. So they're traditional LMS style features. But given the business library is a tool that's been heavily used, which, since we've launched it, we do find a lot of our businesses are using it. It will give us the ability to provide that as an additional offering to our clients. And the other thing, there are so many techs out there, which is fantastic. I love techs. But if you can reduce one, for example, and, if you've got a technology that can do both, you're not only going to save costs, but it's going to make it a lot easier as well for, to manage things. So rather than having, let's just say, a business catalog or a learning management system that you onboard new staff with, it could be really great to be able to do that through the one training platform that you're using, especially, like Think Caddie in this case.
And I think that's the other thing that probably isn't done super well. I mean, I know that, for example, one of the platforms recently announced a whole lot of content targeted at admins and some content targeting professional years sort of advisors, but there isn't a lot for anybody who's not actually an advisor. And so I think, working towards the point where we can tailor some of this content to really get their confidence up about the world they're in, the industry they're in, and the way we all work together, I think is fabulous, because there hasn't been a great deal of that before. For them.
Exactly. And I think having that flexibility in the platform, people will, as you mentioned, like the professional year advisors, or you've got advisors who don't necessarily need to do CPD, but they're, general staff at the business. Being able to have all of that in one place, being able to, share content across multiple, entities within a business. It's just going to allow the business, I guess, to, up their game with the learning and development whether it's a legislative requirement or whether you just want your staff to train up to do that, because that's, what industry the business is in.
Absolutely. And I'm thinking about we're constantly doing training and updating everything with our staff. And that's, of course, across, changes to processes and systems we use and things like that. If that can be all in one place and it's just that what they see is a bit different because they don't need CPD, it's about the other stuff, then, that as a business owner, absolutely that makes me happier because it's everybody's this is the place we learn. It's not about CPD or not. It's just when we're learning stuff, this is where we do it, which I think is really good, and it just simplifies things.
Yeah, it does. So, and look, we're always looking at ways to enhance and build out the system to make it better and better. This is just one of the projects that we're working on, but what we love is, we love talking to our clients and saying, what is it that you want to see, or what's not working as well as you want it to, or what could you see a little bit better? And really, that's how the system has got to where it is today.
Yeah.
So back to that business library, that never existed, a couple of years ago. That's something we added because our clients were asking for it. The team management portal as well, the reporting features, we try and make that as simplified and as easy to access as possible.
Yep.
So you can pull an entire business report in 2 clicks.
Yeah.
All of the system is built based on our client requirements.
Yeah. Yeah. And look, the simplicity is important because, so for me, what I love is, and I was actually just chatting about it this morning to somebody, is, to be able to look into the portal and go, okay, I have 14 weeks left, but I have 18 hours to do. That's not the maths I'm happy with. I want it to be, I want to bring it down to this so that it's only, say, an hour per week left in the year, so it just simplifying that sort of mental picture rather than it just being, there's always just so much CPD I've got to do, things that make it accessible and break it down and make it feel achievable is really important with these tools, because otherwise people just avoid it and do it all at the end.
Absolutely. And having that visual representation is really great as well, I think. So being able to see, hang on, like my progress wheel is not very green, which is the color that we make them. I really need to jump in and get that sorted. So that visual representation is great too, because you can see without having to read anything, just where you're sitting in your overall goal.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, is there anything else we've missed? Have we covered the main parts of the tool?
I believe so. I
think so.
One of the other parts I might point out is, we are a relatively new platform in the market. Mm-hmm. And what we've done, or what we've, built, given that, is making that change management process as easy as possible. So we've built tools to be able to, import any historical data from whatever system you might have used into Caddie, so that it's all in one place. If you do get audited by ASIC, or, you've got to produce a whole bunch of historical records, we can, if we've transferred that across, we can then have it all in one place. So you're not having to, go out and figure out, where did I do this in, 2017, or where did I do this in 2003, or, it's all just there.
Look, and it's great to, simplicity all round, right? Just more things being simpler, then, it frees up all our bandwidth. All right, Advice Explorers, if you'd like to find out more about Think Caddie, then the website link is in the episode show notes, along with Sasha's LinkedIn details. So feel free to poke and prod her on LinkedIn, and I'm sure she'll connect you with the right person. Thank you so much for joining us, Sasha. And look, thank you for making my CPD life easy. In fact, I have been caught doing CPD in major airports all over the world when we were traveling. So it is super easy to use, and it has meant it's no longer the chore that it used to be. So please pass that on to the Caddie team, because I am really grateful for that.
Thank you so much, Peita. We love hearing that. We want to take the pain out of CPD. So, if we're doing that, that's fantastic. We're doing what we set out to do.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
So, are you a current user of Caddie? Now, something that I did want to flag that we didn't cover off in the interview is that Sasha has kindly offered a discount for XY members who join up their business or their AFSL. So please do reach out to her if you are curious. But I want to know how you find the tool if you've utilised it. So please share your insights on the XY community platform. Tag me because I'd love to hear what others think and maybe how you're sort of ninja using the tool so even I can get some ideas. Now, as for my thoughts, I actually have had some messages recently from people about tools that we've sort of run through on the podcast, whether that's been, the main interviews or even the Curiosity Corner apps. And, they're sort of excited about the opportunity or the app. However, either they're an employee in a business, so they don't feel like they might have as much sway in the decision, or, the use of the tool is sort of determined at a licensee level. And the message sort of invariably goes something like, thanks so much, Peita, for bringing up app ABC to my attention. It sounds like just what we need. It'd be great. Unfortunately, I just don't think I can make the team or the licensee, move away from what they're currently using. Right? That's just a common sort of message. Now, there are very good reasons for that in, licensee world or even in business world, the decisions we make about tools we use. However, if you find yourself in this position, then just perhaps consider, and when you're looking at a tool, and it could be Caddie, it could be anything else, then I'd get you to just think about two things. One, you'll never know if they're going to take it up if you don't ask, right? And two, you'll be far more successful if you ask well. What I mean by that is if you bother to put together a business case on why either your licensee or your manager or the business owner should look into this tool. Put together feature comparison tables, financials in terms of what it will cost in terms of, in comparison to what a similar tool costs you now, feedback from users you've spoken to, even other business owners maybe they could talk to about the app. If you're serious about something and you really think it could add value, put some serious effort into pitching the decision makers on what you've found. Look, you may not get a yes, but I guarantee you will be much closer than if you never asked. So if you need any input for that or, you want some suggestions or help, please post on the XY community platform, tag me, and I'd love to help you get something across the line that could really benefit the business. Now, as you will now be aware of, Caddie curates content for a niche group of people, financial advisors and other financial service professionals. So for today's Curiosity Corner app, I thought we might take a look at a tool that is sort of doing the same, but for a different market. Today's tool that caught my eye is the Australian Government Be Connected website. Now, you can find it at beconnected.esafety.gov.au. Now, Be Connected is an Australian-wide, it's a national initiative, which is sort of looking to empower all Australians to thrive in a digital world. Now, embedded underneath that, when they say all Australians, what they're saying is everybody above digital natives, right? So if you didn't grow up with a phone in your hand from birth, then this is for you. They're targeting at people where basically technology is not as natural to them. They have resources on the website, including a network of community partners who can offer support to help develop people's digital skills and confidence in digital and, tech and the web. Now, this entire endeavour is trying to help people just like our retired clients who are struggling with all the digital demands in today's world. And it really tries to step them through how to go about things. Topics covered include internet banking, password managers, MyGov, using Wi-Fi, and even how to edit photos, right? We've just had really great feedback from our clients on it. And if you have someone in your life or clients in your business that are absolutely not in the digital native category, then I'd actually encourage you to point them towards it because I think it could add some real benefit for them. Well, that's all we've got for this week. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast so you'll get your AdviceTech fix automatically sent to you each Friday. And as we head into the silly season, I just wanted to remind you that the niche down and scale up live masterclass is on in early 2023 and could really set you up to make the year one of serious business transformation. So if you're keen, please reach out to me on LinkedIn to secure your spot in the queue. You can find me at LinkedIn/PeitaMD. That's PEITAMD. Otherwise, I'll look forward to turning up in your earbuds next week. And remember, Advice Explorers, stay curious.